is Arlene, and you're listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. And together with me,
Hi, this is Gowri. We're moving on to our ABC dialogue this morning, and we have two very special guests in the studio with us today.
yeah, so they will be talking something to do with Nelson Mandela. So what is it? Dr. Thye and also Archana is in the studio today. So how are you guys today?
Great, great.
Very good.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So what do you want to share with us in terms of Nelson
Yeah,
Mandela?
maybe you can give us a little introduction first
Mm-hmm.
Right.
as to,
Sure.
yeah.
Well, first of all, a bit about Nelson Mandela Day. This is a day to honor the late Nelson Mandela for his, long walk for freedom, and it's celebrated
Mm-hmm.
on the 18th of July every year. Which is
Mm-hmm.
actually his birthday. So it's coming up this Friday actually.
Right.
And the reason why we want to do something on this day because Nelson Mandela has been someone who inspire us a lot. When I say us,
Mm-hmm.
both Archana and I, we are in Global Peace Foundation Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing a lot of educational program and talk about the life work of Nelson Mandela. So we look at him. I mean, when I grew up, I just know him as a champion who abolished the apartheid,
Appetite,
in
yeah.
South Africa. But the more I know about him, the more I realize that the real greatness of Nelson Mandela is actually to unite a very divided country,
Mm-hmm.
along the racial lines, social class, skin color, and he managed, not just to fight for the black South African, but to actually win the trust of both the black and white and
Mm-hmm.
unite them as a country, as a nation to move forward. That is something we felt it's very needed in today's world because we are so divided today in
Mm-hmm.
the world along, racial, religious, nationality, cultural lines and so on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that you guys have been doing every year?
No, this is gonna be our first
Oh,
year
okay.
doing that.
That's
Okay, that's
interesting.
exciting.
Yeah.
So, Archana, I mean, it's interesting that you guys are picking the Nelson Mandela Day to inspire change. And also, I'm actually on the page of United Nations. It stated that on every year on the Nelson Mandela Day, the Nelson Mandela Foundation actually join calls together with United Nations to devote to ask for society to devote 67 minutes of time to helping others. But what is GPS is the Global Peace Foundation is doing on this?
As you can see, they try to promote 67 minutes, right? 67 minutes, but we were thinking of doing something more than that. Cause imagine if everyone were to put words into action. Because these days, especially young people, they're more
Mm-hmm.
into standing up for the right thing, standing up for the right cause. But where does that lead to? So we were thinking about something more action oriented. That's why we went beyond 67 minutes. So we intend to celebrate Nelson Mandela International Day by actually putting up a nice line of things to do rather than just to celebrate the day itself.
So, what are some of the things that you have
Mm.
lined up for these people?
Basically, we have three important things that we are doing. One
Mm-hmm.
is to do act of kindness. So
Okay.
I wouldn't use the word perform because we're not performing here, but actually carrying out the acts of kindness in public. So we're going to KL Central, Kelana Jaya Station, the Curve.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going with the Global Peace volunteers, and also we invite public to join us together with to actually go out and do nice things, smile to people, try to
Mm-hmm.
initiate conversations. And the second thing we are doing is to give out roses. Who do you give out roses to, flowers to? Usually you give out flowers to people that you love, people that you care for. So giving flowers to strangers actually gives a very good message, meaning I don't know you, you don't know me, but we can,
Mm-hmm.
we are fine, we respect each other, things like that. Very simple gestures, but they go a long way in building trust and relationship between people. And the third thing we're doing is the Mandela Mob. So you would have heard of the flash mob. So we are calling it a Mandela Mob because it's a
Mm-hmm.
Nelson Mandela inspired flash mob where we bring the message of unity, peace, and um, living together in harmony. Yeah.
So people just show up and start talking about Mandela, or how does it work?
We are basically gathering. We're gonna move together from one spot to another, performing all these acts of kindness and distributing the flowers. And then eventually we're gonna have the mob at the curve itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean by mob, by the way?
MOB, mob. Because mob is usually people turning up somewhere and and doing something, and the doing, the act of doing is usually related to something negative those days, being mobbed, or you go mob, basically you do something bad in a group, but this is in a good tone, in a good connotation. So we are doing a Mandela mob, so we are basically coming together, putting up a big dance. So very interesting choreography.
Okay.
And towards the end of it, we sort of show people who we are, because most of us are from different nationality, different racial background, religious background, but no matter what, we are essentially one human family, and we are bringing this to the public to show them that this is what we really are. Yeah.
Mandela has given many speeches throughout his life, and a lot of his speeches promotes peace and unity, and most importantly against the idea of being oppressed. But for you, I mean, what inspire you in terms of how Mandela is as a person and how he inspire other people?
Right. I think if you look at Mandela's life, from young he's always aspire for a nation and society that everyone has equal opportunity, and living in a safe, harmonious country. And what inspired me is, of course, he turned into violence at one point. That's why he was put into jail, because he couldn't find other ways around to change how the oppressor, work. So, but what inspired me is throughout his 27 years of imprisonment, something happened within himself. And that something is a change that he talked about after he left. He was released from the prison. A change from hating the whites and having so much of anger when he went into the prison, but when he was released, he was a man still with the same mission, but yet he has no bitterness against the white. He could actually sit down and speak and negotiate with the white leaders. And because of a change from within himself, how he look at human being, how he look at the white and black, that kind of brought, the big transformation in the country. So in an interview by Oprah Winfrey, he was asked how did you do that? Could you forgive someone who put you in the jail? And he said he realized that he still hate oppression, but he doesn't hate the white people, and the white people who oppress the black, they are also victims of fear. So that's something that really inspired me about Nelson Mandela, and how we as leaders in some way, and our future leaders, the younger generation, I think Nelson Mandela is just a great leader that everyone should emulate and learn from. Yeah.
Recently there's a bombing in Gaza by the Israeli government, and hundreds of airstrikes has been released and being bombed in areas where there's a lot of civilians. And also when it comes to Hamas themselves, also they didn't really stay quiet. They keep on bombing Israeli, even though they didn't manage to kill anyone in return. But this idea of an eye for an eye is something that is happening not just within the Israeli-Palestinian war, but also on a larger scale in a lot of different areas from different countries. I'm just wondering, how can the Nelson Mandela Day actually impact global society, global community, in terms of trying to see that we should not do things based on the idea of an eye for an eye, but something bigger than that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good question, I would say. I think during this Nelson Mandela Day, we need to promote the understanding. Um, it's not easy when you are hurt, you are being oppressed, and it's never easy for any human being to just say, I forgive you. So first of all, I think that um, exemplary leadership of Nelson Mandela need to be promoted to more people to understand that if there is a man, whose people were oppressed for many years and he was put into jail for 27 years, if he could, rise above hatred, um, other people can do it as well. It is not impossible. I think Nelson Mandela has given us this gift to understand that we can do that. And another thing that inspired me is Nelson Mandela. He saw some kids, who were learning how to fight. Before at the time he was about to be released from jail, he was seeing some black kids learning how to fight. And he asked them, "What are you doing?" And the kids say, "We're preparing to fight with the white." And then what he said to these kids is, "Well, that's what the white are doing to you, but you should be better than that." He's calling them to be better in the sense that, hey, you can do better by going above, rising above just hating and wanting to fight. There's something better that we all can do. So I think that's an amazing message from Nelson Mandela to remind us, every individual, every leaders in the world. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And also because of that, you guys started the Global Peace Volunteer. Although you guys have already started this a couple of years ago.
Right.
But just to give an introduction about what is Global Peace Volunteers, maybe Archana can tell us something about it.
Global Peace Volunteers are basically a group of young people who are very enthusiastic about change, because the whole program, the project, runs with a theme called "Be the Change You Want to See in This World." So these young people, they come from various backgrounds, and they come with that pure intention to make a positive impact and social change in this world. So to have that in the heart, that's a good start. But you need to lead them to the right direction, right? So that's where the Global Peace Volunteer provides the platform for them to give them the right nutrients, so to say, so the leadership skills and a right mindset, and we call it the right heart set. Yeah.
What is the right heart set?
The right heart set is basically having the right intention, like I mentioned, because when a person has a responsibility or a task or a duty to carry out, when they don't have the right heart, that's where everything goes wrong. So basically, to have the good sense of leadership and to carry out one's responsibilities in the rightful manner, you need to have the right heart set. Yeah. So these volunteers, we call them volunteers, but they are beyond just being volunteers, because the purpose of them coming together as the Global Peace Volunteers itself is not to merely learn volunteer skills, but to equip themselves with the right set of skills to actually be someone in this society that would propagate the right change. So yeah, that's a rough gist about Global Peace Volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how the Global Peace Volunteer expand itself from what you have done in the past until now?
Well, basically, how people come to be part of the Global Peace Volunteers is to a camp that we organize every few months. It's called Global Peace Volunteer Camp, and to this 3 days, 2 nights camp, they come to learn a lot about the idea that Archana said, how we are essentially one global family beyond colors and creed. And and a lot of these young people, it's amazing to look at them. Once they understand this, the idea that although there's so much of differences in the world, but essentially what bind us together as humanity, is that we all share so much in common. We all aspire for the same thing. We aspire for respect, for love, for dignity, and so on. So and these young people just become so close. As Archana said, they all come from different background. Some of them hardly make friends with people of other races in country, and they get to do that in the camp, and that kind of really let them have a new experience. So the Global Peace Volunteer has been expanding because these young people, they're excited with something new that they learn, and they see how they as an individual can make an impact in the world. They realize that they need to continue to learn and grow, and they're spreading this to their friends. So there's a lot of other young people who wanted to join us. Yeah.
Interesting. So, Gowri, actually, I just want to highlight this morning talking because he mentioned something about race and race being divided and how people don't know much about people or do not have good understanding of people from other races. And this morning we were looking at our social media sites. And there's this short clip that you showed to me about one Malay girl that was so furious that her car got bumped by another car.
Yeah, that's right.
Apparently from a different races, which is Chinese. And she quoted something that were quite racist in a way in her
Have
manner.
you guys seen that video? It's all over Facebook.
It's all over social media.
It's very viral. This Chinese guy apparently hit her car very, very mildly actually from the back. And she got so furious, she took out her steering lock, she started banging at his car, and she's like, "You pay me 2,000 now,
Wow.
you make me tension." And then just before she got into her car, she said, China lah, that kind of thing. So,
I mean, it is something that would create some form of racial tension if the people view it. But Kyrie did something very interesting, and I thought it was really good in his tweets.
yeah, so Kyrie Jamaluddin actually tweeted saying that it's sad that you guys are all bashing this lady, but at that time when it happened, no one actually did anything to stop her. So I thought that was a very interesting point, how we Malaysians can be really passive at times when something is going on right in front of you. And apparently this person too, he's more interested in just filming the whole thing as opposed to actually meddling and doing something about it.
So my question to you both, actually, why Malaysians are like that? But you guys will answer it later after this.
You have time
this
to
break.
think. Yeah,
You have time to think about it.
The voice of sharing. Durian ASEAN.
Hey, this is Arlene, and we are returning back with our very exciting discussion.
Yeah, and during the break, we watched that video we were talking about. So I think we're gonna just discuss it for a bit.
Yeah, the reason why we bring out that video, which we thought is very interesting, because although this is an extreme version of how race relation happens within different groups of people, and it also depends on the individual, where the individual can be outraged out of nothing, and we have this concept of amok among the Malay community as well. But at the same time, we have to understand that although it's an extreme version, but it's also it's part of what our society is facing right now, which is a lot of different races in this country have very negative view among each other. I guess they put the blame on the race rather than trying to look at the bigger picture. So, but from you, Dr. Thye, viewing the video itself, what comes to your mind? I mean, you representing an organization that promotes peace and promotes intercultural, interracial understanding. What comes to your mind when you look at the video?
I think I really feel sad for two things. First of all, a person who cannot control her emotion, cannot negotiate and talk things out, in a critical situation. That's sad. That's shows probably how our society, has so much of stress within them, that is not being able to channel. So when something happened, they just burst out uncontrolled. Second thing, of course, is the racial element in this incident. How she lashed out at the guy who banged him, who's a Chinese, using the word, 'Saya tahu dia Cina'. It's sad because then you bring in another issue into into this accident, which is totally unrelated. Any people with a sane mind would know that it's nothing to do with racial issue here. So what I could probably probably what's behind, nobody can read her mind actually, but probably if this young lady would have more friends of from the Chinese community, she would not say something like that, because then she know if she say that it's gonna hurt somebody. So the sad thing is probably we have very little interaction in our society, as a lot of people are just comfortable staying with people of the same race, and because of lack of interaction is lack of sensitivity, lack of empathy, which would cause bigger problem later.
And I think Archana also brought up an interesting point when we said, it was probably because she was mad, but then you said, no, it has to come from inside her, like she probably has that stereotype already. So what do you think spurred her to actually say something like that?
Speaking about that, I think most of the time, most of us, if not all, in Malaysia itself, talking about Malaysians, what we do is we don't talk about things that we think is sensitive. We are sort of taught to be that way, not to be able to discuss things openly, things that we don't understand. And often when it's related to race or religion, we are sort of even taught by our parents. Even we had someone from our Girl Peace volunteers who actually shared that her parents have this certain stereotypical thinking towards Chinese people. So but she's sort of tired and sick of this, and she wants to get out of it. So this is where the Girl Peace volunteers, one of the things we do is we also provide a platform for people to be for young people to be able to propagate change by being able to discuss about things that they don't understand in terms of race and religion. So I'm a Hindu, and I might not know why Malay people wear the hijab, or carry out certain prayers 5 times a day. Things like this, simple things, but when you don't really understand and you're not allowed to talk about it, it causes some form of discomfort, and you tend to want to stick together with the people that you think are your own type. So that comes down to being racially segregated, and it worsens the situation where people carry this discomfort, and to a certain point when it just blows out, and you see ugly things like this video.
Another element of the video that I found it to be very, aside from race, another element is about societal disrespecting people from the older generation, because we see that clearly the Chinese person was an old man. With her, she just treated him as if like he's just another person. While I think there's very lack of very lack of respect towards people from the older age group, and I'm just curious why society has resort to those kind of attitudes. Why is that so?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the distrust is going on because of very little interaction and lack of empathy. I like the word empathy here, because a lot of time, if you get to know someone, let's say I don't know you today, you're a stranger to me, and I don't know you, and because I don't know you, I won't care what you're feeling, right? And I don't actually feel that you you deserve some respect and things like that. But the moment I get to know you, and find out that, hey, we have certain commonality, I would start to be able to feel for you. So if I mean, we all have parents at home, and we all kind of know that, hey, people who are older, they hope to be respected by young people, by anyone actually. And if I have that kind of understanding through my parents and the elderly around me, I should be able to develop that empathy towards even strangers, because once you're able to see that even strangers are the same human being like my parents and my, relatives, yeah.
That's interesting. And another element that you raised during our short break is the bystanders. And I think Kyrie highlighted it, that
Yep.
the bystanders are not doing anything, right?
Yeah, they're just standing there filming and trying to make this thing go viral, but no one actually bothered to interfere or try to calm her down or intervene.
You're right, and it's not just based on that particular situation. I think in a lot of situation, even when there's a accident happening, when it involves some people getting hurt, people will just look at it like, don't you bother to call the ambulance or the police or something like some other people to help. They just stand there and look, or take a video out of their phones.
Yeah, probably it goes back to what Dr. Thye said, the lack of empathy that we don't. We just look at it as something that amuses us, as opposed to something that you actually relate to or
Right.
do some.
Well, actually, we've seen worst case. It was also a video on
Okay.
YouTube that I found, and we use it as educational material. This video is about a contrast between a dog that was hit by a car on the road, and a young child was hit by a van in China. And the amazing part is this dog that was hit and was lying in the middle of the highway. After just about few seconds, another dog appeared, and came to this dog and tried to pull,
Drag it.
drag him to the side of the
Even
road.
dog has empathy.
Yeah, and then this little girl, I mean, I think it's a girl, was hit by, I think, a small lorry in a place. I think her parents must be busy doing something, so she was just walking and then was hit by this small lorry, and the lorry actually stopped for a while to look at the girl that she was hit, and she was on the floor, and then the lorry went off. And then after that, about a few minutes passed. There are people who walk by, with motorbike and cycling. No one actually stopped. They actually saw her, and then they moved on. And it would, I mean, it's just, when I watch that video,
It's a horrible video.
yeah, it's really, I feel really sad, how people has total loss of empathy, and I see that as a cancer of a society when people don't feel for each other anymore.
I think back in Penang as well, coming from an Indian background, there were a few times when my relatives will be talking about a certain incident, and then someone would say something like, but what does it matter with us anyway, because that person was not Indian.
It's not related
so,
to it.
Yeah, so why should we care? Like, they're not an Indian anyway, and they're not Hindu, so like they have people to care about them. Do you think that we are ever able to get past this racial thing and be more human towards each other?
It's interesting because it's not just a racial, I mean, the racial aspect of people not being empathetic towards others. It's also about class, because I think in Western society they did a social experiment. There's this one person, he pretend to be sick and get and fainted in the middle of a busy street in a Western city, and at first he wore like really I would say unsightly clothes, meaning that like
Torn and ragged
he's
clothes.
trying to look like he's a homeless person, and when he pretended to be fainted, nobody helped him. People just walk past and look, and that's it. But then he changed his attire to wear something that is much more presentable. Actually, he wore
A suit,
a
right?
suit,
Yeah.
and he makes sure that he looked really nice, and he fainted in the middle of the street, and so many people came after him and asked him like, how are you okay, and all that. So it seems like society are also being discriminative towards people who are from a lower class, social class. And of course in Malaysia we have this issue regarding on the homeless people, and how the one of the minister are trying to sort of get rid of this homeless society. And with global peace, yourself, how do you see in this case?
Yeah. I like the example that you gave, because that really show us that it's not just about racial thing. It can go to any differences that we all have. And the question of whether we can actually make a change to how people look at each other. My experiences tell me that the answer is yes, because if we just have, what we have to do is to help people to experience something that will open out their mind to understand and realize that every human being are essentially the same in terms of what we all desire from deep inside us. And that kind of experience is what we're trying to create in Global Peace Volunteer. The fact that we're bringing along people of very different background, cultural, religion, race, and nationality. We are exposing them to interact with each other. And one of the things that we do is to let these young people be able to talk to each other. We call it a heart-to-heart session, meaning to be able to talk about themselves, to other people by trusting others. And we put, of course, these people of very different together, one-to-one. An amazing effect that it creates is when people are able to see someone else deeper inside. When you talk heart to heart, means you go beyond the color and how good looking this person is. Going to understand the deeper part of a person, they realize one thing. They realize that, hey, even from outside we look so different, but from inside of you is so much in common. It's so much in common.
They tend to somehow find the commonality.
Exactly. And that suddenly bring them so close together. And that's my personal experience as well. I mean, it takes time for us to grow and learn about that as well. I mean, we all grew up, in a very, we all look at people with a lens of color and social class. Somehow we are brought up like that. We're influenced by our family and society. But as I grow up and get to know people, some of the people who help me in my life or inspire me, they are people who are totally different. They're from different country, different color, and these people impacted me. And then I realized, hey, you know what? All these things doesn't matter anymore. So it won't come easy, but we gotta do something to help people to see that.
And Archana, so about the Global Peace Volunteer for this coming Friday, is it?
Yeah, Friday.
How can people get involved?
Okay.
And how can people do random acts of kindness?
Okay. Actually, we are having a rehearsal today, and with a short briefing. So that's 6 p.m. at our office in Kelana Jaya. And those of them who can't make it for the rehearsal today, you can always pop up on the day itself at the Curve at around 5 p.m. So around 5 p.m. you just come over there, and our team will brief you as to what to do and how you can be involved. And yeah, as simple as that.
Sign up also.
Okay. If you are interested to sign up, you can go to our Facebook page, which is the Global Peace Volunteers Malaysia. And over there, we actually have a link that will lead them to Eventbrite, where they can put in their particulars, and our team can call them up. Yeah.
And what they are expected to do on that day itself? for the public as well as the Global Peace volunteers themselves?
Actually, everyone who wants to be part of this is able to walk through the whole event, I would say. So, meaning they would be able to carry out the acts of kindness, they would be able to distribute the flowers for peace, and also be part of the mob itself. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll also like to encourage, general public, anyone. Not everyone will be able to make it to that place, but the important message here is that on that day, let us all do something. An act of kindness, there's no such thing as a small act of kindness. Act of kindness is an act of kindness. So we want to encourage everyone who are listening. On this Friday is Nelson Mandela International Day. Learn more about Nelson Mandela and who he is, and at the same time, carry on his legacy of giving service to people, just performing random act of kindness. Yeah.
And so, finally, what is the expectation for these Global Peace volunteers? I mean, of course, you have an angle for them, and random acts of kindness shouldn't be done on Nelson Mandela Day, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that actually what we're doing is it's not easy things to do actually. It's easy to say, let's go out to the public and do something for
And
someone
everyone
else.
start hesitating, how do I even start?
So and we're telling them that this is just a start. Actually, many of our Global Peace volunteers understood that you don't need a plan, community project to do good. It should be part of you. It should be with you all the time. And we hear this a lot among the Global Peace volunteers. They've been sharing it after they've joined us. They become a better person. We've heard one of our volunteer who came out to us and say that he used to be a very selfish person, only take care of himself. But at one point after the camp, somebody came to him and said, "Can I borrow your handphone?" And he usually is very scared of strangers,
Right.
and that was a big change of him. He decided that he would lend his phone to that guy, and in his mind he's thinking that, okay, I might lose my phone, that guy might just run away with that. But surprisingly, that guy returned his phone. So his kind of trust and faith towards humanity is changed. Yeah. So what we're trying to say here is, it's not a one-time thing. We all need to keep this in our mind, that everyone in our society, they are all human beings like you and me. They all deserve respect. They all want to be loved and cared for. They would be happy if somebody smiled to them. So and we all can do that simple thing that can impact on other people.
So with that, that's the end of our show today. But maybe Archana, you have a last message to tell to public why they should join this.
Oh, I wouldn't. Why? I would just say be a Mandela. That's what we are,
Okay.
calling everyone on this day who's joining us and who's doing acts of kindness everywhere else. We're calling them a Mandela because what Nelson Mandela embodies, the characteristic, everything is what truly we should be. And by saying a good leader, he's not just a leader, but he really is with the ground, with the people, doing the right things the right way, which put things in the right course. So that's what we should be. So yeah, be a
Okay.
Mandela.
So Gowri, let's be a Mandela.
Let's
together.
be a Mandela this Friday. Right?
Yes.
So thank you very much to Dr. Thye and to Archana for joining us this morning. We had a
Thank you.
very
Thanks a
interesting
lot.
discussion.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.